Jose and Ralph. Pieces in the room. So for today, AI strategy consultant, DocypherLabs. And lastly, but not the least, we have Ralph Piccio, Director of Aura. Now, let's just dive right into this. Ralph, do you want to start?
Of course, thank you very much. I think it's a combination of many factors, top of which is definitely market demand and market forces. Customer expectation has moved, right, with the advent of new technologies. And it's always the same since the advent of, let's say, the information technology. You know, any technology.
Add on, is it cost pressure? Is there anything specific from regulatory or industry requirement that's driving companies to kind of jump into the AI and cloud modernization?
Yeah, it's actually a very good question. Based on my experience, the first would be people. Why? Because especially for users, I'm not sure if you've noticed AI has been driving really fast. Starting from generative AI to AI agents to more smarter agentic AI automations. And then right now, users can now build applications with AI. So who among the audience is familiar with OpenClaw? Can you raise your hands? Okay, there's one.
Couple.
Okay. Okay. So just for the benefit of some, OpenClaw is an open source autonomous AI agents where it can actually run behind your devices. So it can actually perform tasks like, for example, send messages on Telegram or even manage your Google Calendar. Although there are some security risks that we also consider to that. So that's why some organizations consider that we need to and ensure that these platforms are compliant with their necessary security policies. So basically, people expect more, the more the technology advances. And then also for organizations, it's cost. Why? There's an example, it's Klarna. So about 2 years ago, they fired around 700 customer support staff in favor of AI automations. But apparently, it slowed down their responses. So, sir is right, because of FOMO, some companies make those mishaps or mistakes, which is normal, because that's how we learn. And then when it comes to pressure, I would say it's with regulatory compliance. With my experience working with different organizations, from startups to the established ones, for example, I spoke with one of my clients saying that, Ollie, we've been existing for more than 100 years. And as much as we would like to push these innovations, we cannot do it right away because we're trying to protect the little freedom that we only have left. So I would say these three are actually, for me, the most common denominators that drives both innovation and risk as well.
Right? Now, considering all of those criteria for starting, and once you get leadership sign up, right? Leaders decide, okay, let's move forward. Maybe who said, where do you actually start?
We have a US-based client, so we are currently integrating a conversational AI agent. Those were the era where AI agents has been becoming like a wave. So what we did was we used both customer data and then also certain data analytics methods to ensure that we get the necessary insights. For example, customer sentiments, like why customers upset with these certain issues. And then at the same time, we were able to use those data because the reason why these data are already ready, so it's more feasible for us to move first with integrating AI into customer-facing apps and data analytics. So as time goes by, we were able to determine which of these tasks can AI model can perform versus what humans need to intervene. Let's say, for example, for more complex integrations during 2 years ago now, we need to make sure that it escalates to a human. And then also for a more repeatable task, we ensure that these are already automated by AI. But as time goes by, as AI models getting smarter, we are also exploring ways for us to be able to automate more complex tasks. Those are the things that I can add.
But it really boils down to data and core system. Ralph, maybe you want to add from Oracle.
Factors is cost. And also some other companies, especially the established enterprise ones, they consider multi-cloud because of business continuity. Because let's say, for example, like they're using, let's say, Cloudflare and then AWS. Let's say, for example, Cloudflare goes down. Let's say, for example, they have a downtime. At least they have the backup infrastructure just in case something happens. Because if in case downtimes happens, it's actually costing them revenue losses. So that's what organizations consider. Either they consider like a multi-cloud, hybrid, or should we settle for a single infrastructure for now, especially for startups that they don't have much resources and they're currently on a bootstrap.
But once the infrastructure is set up, this is where people like me enters to the room. Security and compliance, right? So how does companies balances out the excitement between the AI innovation as well as balancing equally important discussions like cybersecurity, privacy, and other regulatory requirements? Yeah.
Well, that's a good question.
Platforms from Claude to DeepSeek, Kimi's Moonshot AI, from Perplexity Computer, almost majority of it, I tested a lot. I even have some of my acquaintances here that they've seen all of our work. So the problem with enterprise is that they also consider compliance because, like what I mentioned earlier, they're trying to protect the little freedom that they only have. Because one mistake can cause reputational damage and revenue losses.
And I think bringing them on early in the discussion and embedding security by design is key to this innovation. What guardrails are in place? And let's talk about use cases now, AI use cases. From it being a pilot to actually a project that could deliver measurable impact, how do you move from that era? Maybe Jose.
So can actually flash. I actually built like a visual dashboard powered by AI. So since I've been experimenting AI platforms for the past 2 years, so I decided to build this for this entire event. So basically this one, we can generate insights. If we can scroll down, and then there's a button here. Okay, so scroll down, sorry. Scroll down more. Okay, so as we can see, I've actually used an actual research document and built this dashboard. We can scroll down again. Scroll down again. Okay, scroll down again, sorry. Okay, there you go. If you can click the generate insights. Okay, so it will actually show us like the actual key learnings about the research related to this event. So the reason why I did this because I decided that it's not just beyond experimentation, but we have to make sure that we were able to apply it. It may not be perfect, it may be half-baked, but what's important is we are innovating and we are also applying these technologies, especially those key learnings as well. So can you try pushing the generate insight? Okay, so it's generated insight. Just to give you a brief background, I've used DeepSeek as the AI model for this platform. So as we can see, it's already generating it says here that accelerated sovereign AI deployment on platforms like EPLDT, Philippines Cloud, to process sensitive financial data in the country, mitigating risk. So basically, we can see those insights. So we have an idea of what's happening in the AI cloud and AI infrastructure. So I guess this is something that I can share. First, for some audience, I can actually show some of the things that we built later on after this session. So feel free to reach out to me.
All right. Before we end, maybe Ralph, strategic considerations for long-term investment in AI and cloud. What organizations think about? How would companies, have any identifier, differentiator as we look ahead into years of AI and cloud modernization?
Earliest now, we can also start experimentation and iteration. like what Sir Jose said, that there's no, when we start, it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. Expect that there's going to be mistakes and mishaps. Even those big companies, for example, like, I'm not sure if you're familiar, who's familiar with Replit? If you can raise your hand. Replit is one of the famous vibe coding tools, so which means that you can build applications or even AI-powered tools for web apps from the front end, from the back end database with no code solution. Now, what happened to them was there was a user that apparently his entire database was deleted because of the Replit agent. Apparently, those are key learnings because that time Replit saw a huge problem but had an opportunity to fix those problems. So, as part of the innovation, they expect that there's going to be more problems. What's important is there's a way for us to fully understand those problems and how we can fix this in the future, because that's part of the innovation.
All right. Now we heard that technology is not going to slow down anytime soon. And before we close this session, I want to throw in to the audience if they have any questions for our panelists today. Oh, there's a lot. Okay. Do we have a mic?
Complex type of task. How is the government and industry addressing stuff like this, where we're losing our people, the lower end people who can come in and grow into this?
I can try to answer that question. That's a very good answer. Well, as far as I'm aware, there's actually those BPO companies. I'm not sure if you're familiar with IBPAP. IBPAP is like it's an organization that actually there's a lot of member BPO companies. So it's true because of agentic AI. So there's a lot of entry-level jobs that are being automated. So it's causing layoffs, people getting fired. So those companies, what they're doing right now is they're diversifying their service offerings or their horizontals. So instead of just offering the normal customer support, finance and accounting, they're now starting to diversify their service offerings into training AI models. So for some who are not familiar with AI trainers or data annotators, what they do is they try to train AI models with specific data. Let's say, for example, they're trying to, let's say, identify a picture of a cat versus a picture of a leopard. So these AI trainers make sure that they correctly tag the specific data or the name of those animals to make sure that the AI fully understands which of these pictures are a cat or, let's say, a leopard. So those are some of the jobs that are being now diversified for these industries. Another one is for AI building automations. Let's say, for example, there are some companies, especially the tech ones in the BPO industry, that they're already training their technical team to make sure that they are able to set up automations for their clients. Let's say, for example, their clients is using N8N, and then their client wants to make sure that they're able to maximize their full orchestration. So they wanted to make sure that those staff are trained to set up and orchestrate those AI agents for their clients. I wasn't sure if that answers your question, but we can actually chat later on if you want to get more insight.
Actually, that's a great question. I work primarily with North America customers and
DL, I'm a US expat here in Manila. I founded a nonprofit group called AI and Tech Manila, where we invite experts like you to come in and talk about the impact of the AI revolution on our careers and more broadly on the economy and the future of the species. I appreciate what you said about regulation earlier, and that it's really important to ensure that companies do not open up vulnerabilities that enable hackers, cyber criminals, and just nefarious actors in general. However, where I struggle with regulation is that very often it is symbolic, it is toothless, and it does not result in corrective behavior, right? Case in point, you've got Meta paying, $400 million or something over misleading information on child safety, and a couple years back, I think Meta paid another billion or so to the EU for privacy violations. The only issue with that is Meta makes, $10 billion a year off of these, scammy Temu ads on Facebook, and to them, $400 million is nothing. So they routinely see that as a simple cost of doing business, and they just roll over that and keep doing what they're doing. In fact, they will enable hackers and cyber criminals because these criminals drive the ad revenue and the ad views. My solution to this is to tie penalties to the source of revenues. So if you make $5 billion off of this revenue line, I would say, okay, well, let's hit them with a $10 billion penalty so that they actually change their behavior. But I don't know if that will be effective, and I'd like to hear from you what better solutions, what alternative, more effective solutions would you have? Thank you.
Right. No, this is a valid question. Really tough problem.
Especially these platforms. If for some are aware, AI has been existing for decades, since the 1950s. It just so happened that it's only like a closed door research test. Apparently when ChatGPT got released like 2022, so it just became public until Google followed suit, and then also the rest of the big players outside. Now, it's really tough for us to like balance between innovation and also compliance. So that's why, for me, it's really important to have clarity, making sure that the government has a way to at least collaborate with private companies to fully understand what's currently happening from the background. Like, for example, what are those new technologies that are disrupting organizations, industries, and so that the government can fully understand which and how we can actually regulate and ensure that we are able to implement responsible and AI safety at the same time.
Alright, thank you. And I think that wraps up. We really need stricter regulations. I like the carrot and the stick kind of proposal, right? But I don't think we have anyone from the government who can help aid that question. We'd like to thank our panelists for their insights today, and to our very, very enthusiastic audience. Thank you for listening, and hope you have a couple of new ideas to bring back to your organizations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. You guys come step forward. Have a quick picture.